than they usually are.
Oyster House was a tough place.
We work to survive.
And when that adrenaline starts pumping, they do things that they couldn't ordinarily do.
Your toes be frozen, your hands is frozen.
We might not actually see it come about, whatever we're praying for, but God has a way of fixing stuff.
It was a village. Everybody knew everybody, took care of each other, took care of your children. They had pride. They wanted the children to learn. They were close to each other.
One big family. I consider it one big family.
I like it when God keeps open a door for me to walk through. Even though it might not have been the door I wanted to go through at the time. But later on I realized that that's where I should have been all the time.
Strength. Strength. Strength to carry on.
It's really hard to imagine when you look around here to realize that at one time there was a thriving community for almost 50 years. Now you see the meadows and the grasses, but there was houses all along here. There was a school, there were restaurants and businesses. The story of the African American community really began in the mid-1920s with the arrival of oyster shuckers from the Chesapeake Bay region. Until that time, oysters in the Delaware Bay weren't shucked. They were harvested and shipped out in their shells. And then in 1924, there's an outbreak of typhoid fever that killed more than 150 people, traced to contaminated oysters in Long Island Sound. And that led to new safety requirements in the industry that included shucking the oysters and placing the oysters in cans. So there was an immediate need for experienced shuckers, and the industry looked towards the Chesapeake Bay, where they had been shucking oysters for a long time. Recruiting workers from the Chesapeake wasn't new. For many years, workers had come up during the winter months to work on the boats. They would stay for the season and went home. But suddenly, with the opening of these shucking houses, there was a demand almost year-round for workers. Workers were both men and women. And then their families moved here to New Jersey and settled.
My father came before down to Jersey here to work from Maryland. There wasn't much work in Maryland at that time, so he knew where the work was.
It had to be a lot more work in Jersey than it was in Maryland at that time. So my daddy just decided to stay here and raise us here.
My oldest sister, my brothers, the youngest brothers, and I moved here. Came here on back of a farm truck. Scary ride from my understanding.
My grandpa and my grandma, they came up here first. And then my mom and them, they followed. And they stayed.
Well, there were a lot of reasons that people decided to stay in Port North. Some of them were romantic, and primarily economical, and also people wanted something different. Port North area had the promise that we, could do better than we were already doing.
It was a place that they saw they could get ahead. And most of the people knew about making a living in seafood and on the water and like that. They were right at home with that.
They had a different sense of history. They knew that there were more opportunities.
Housing was needed. Housing was built directly across from the oyster houses. They were long row houses. The word people used to describe them was they were shanties. I was saying, I lived in this shanty here or across the way. They didn't have running water. They all had community pumps that they would use. There was no other indoor facilities like toilets. They were all like outhouses that they would access. If you lived there, you certainly were, working in the oyster houses or even on the boats. But because of the family units that were coming,
then you need everything else that went with the community, like the schools and the churches and other community functions.
See, I remember things because of the telephone pole. That's what I always went by. So when you see me counting, that's all I'm counting, to remember what that was.
Row houses here, row houses here, row houses over on this side, a row on this side.
It was houses along here. It was houses all the way down here.
We had a living room, dining room, and a kitchen, and upstairs was 2 bedrooms.
And you paid rent to that, for that house that we lived in, to like a guy named Berry, Miller Berry, family that was paid their rent on time and was there a long time. He built a little kitchen on the back, so we had a kitchen plus 2 rooms downstairs.
Most of the homes, as far as I knew, did not have running water, did not have indoor facilities for bathrooms.
We had what they call a pot. Yeah. You had to take that out and hope the wind wasn't blowing.
That's where we had to come out to go to the restroom and stuff, see? And that's where your pumps was at.
The toilet and the water pump were near each other, and so was the garbage pit, you know? And, you know, we had to contend with all of that.
But we managed to make the best out of what we had. And believe you me, parents can be very creative.
When you walked in our house, it looked like a castle in there. Everybody's house was fixed up. Wallpapers, everything was fixed up. People couldn't believe it when they come.
They would take whatever they earned from work, and they would go and buy secondhand furniture.
It was what you make it, you know, the houses. It was what you made it, you know. If you wanted to live good, if you wanted the inside of your house looking good, you had to make it that way. And my dad did that. And he did that.
We didn't have to leave right here for nothing. Everything was right here for us. We had to leave right here for nothing. They used to call this New York City, little New York City.
Going down Ogden Avenue, the Church of God, Church of the Living God, you would see that first. Then you would see Mr. Fred Dorman's barbershop. Then you would see Ted Reeves' store.
Mr. Ted, all I can remember is Mr. Ted, he's a white man, he had the store.
We used to call him Tape Reed. His name was John Reed. He used to live up there across from John Wesley's church.
Right on the corner of Ogden and Berry Row was Willie Guy's store.
That was right here. He sold a little grocery, candy and bread and stuff like that, sodas. And he had a parrot. That parrot, you know, everybody that came in the store. If anybody tried anything in the store, he'll tell. Right here was the big building. It was upstairs and downstairs. And they used to have dances and stuff there.
And we used to call it Pop Hands.
Pop Hands.
Pop Hanses.
And he had a jukebox in there, a restaurant and everything. You could go in there and cross your legs and take a soda and drink it and talk for an hour about what happened last night and what do you think's going to happen in Brixton and how about that so-and-so got married? All the gossip.
Miss Pearl, she had a house here. Her house is here, and she used to sell dinners out of her house.
Miss Pearl's down
Oh, my goodness, yes.
Yes. You know, they
Fish,
had some,
fried fish, fried chicken.
1, 2, 3. I'm going to show you where the speakeasy started.
Yeah, a lot of dancing and music and getting drunk, shooting and yeah.
One was called Hole in the Wall, and one was called Mumbo Charlie's, and one was called Grace and Jesse Lee's.
My people always liked to dance, and almost any store down there that sold anything had a piccolo in it and they danced. You put a nickel in there and it would pay a record.
I enjoyed going out and seeing the adults dancing and listening to the piccolo.
I was young, but you know, we used to sneak in the speakeasies and stuff, but they put you out as soon as they're on to see you. Get out of here, get out of here. Can't be in here.
Berrytown was exciting, very exciting. And my dad had the first juke joint up there. And it was jumping. The joint was jumping, yeah.
It was in Berrytown,
It was in
but
Berrytown.
I was too young. I wasn't allowed in there.
They
Yeah.
wasn't just in Berrytown. They was down here.
Too, yeah.
They was in Shellpile.
Yeah.
So they
And
would
people
hop.
come from miles around,
Yeah.
you know, to get a few drinks and have a dance.
And bar hop from Berrytown to Chesapeake.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We were told, don't go up there because those shells will cut you to death. You know, they had to put a threat in there. Well, we went up there anyhow. And then when we got up there, we're gonna come down, and we knew that what the shells was gonna do. Those oyster shells was gonna avalanche right behind us. And we would come down there, and we knew never stop.
We loved the sword fight. We enjoyed it. Zorro and the Three Musketeers and all that. I mean, I thought I was the best.
We played marbles. I still got marbles to this day. We used to get down on the ground and shoot marbles. We rolled tires from one end of the line, you know, go down this way and then come back, roll tires.
This was the county wharf down here. We used to come down here and swim years ago. That's where we swam at, down here.
They would swim all the way over. Like my brother, he was one of the good swimmers.
The good swimmers would jump off here. Most people that couldn't swim would swim right here. I was one of them.
There was a hay marsh right across from Berrytown. So they called that Berrytown Road. So we'd go back there. We'd make tunnels in the hay. Yeah, it was a big barrels of hay. We'd make tunnels, ropes and everything down in the middle of them. We just had a ball. We had a ball.
The school was dynamic. It was dynamic. The whole thing was called Brown School. There were 3 classrooms with a furnace room that was connecting 2 of them.
All of my parents and grandparents were, I say they're fanatics about education, but I thank God for it.
They had a goal, and you had a lot of illiterate people, and they didn't want their children to be illiterate, and everybody's focus was on those kids.
And they made sure those children were in school.
You didn't play hooky. Nobody in the community would tolerate that.
They respected the school. They respected the teachers.
My mother, now she shucked oysters part-time until we came along. Then she made sure that we did all the lessons that were sent home by the teacher. We had to show them to her so that we'd make sure that the teacher would get back an answer to all the lessons that she sent home.
They wanted the children to learn. If they brought a low grade home, they were close to each other, and one family would know about the other family getting a child, and it wasn't good, and they didn't want that stigma on it.
All their kids went to the Brown School, and all of the parents and stuff worked shucking.
They got up early, like 3 o'clock in the morning. We were in our beds. It was 4 of us. Daddy took one on each one of his shoulders. Mama took one on each one of her shoulders. And we were taken from our beds to a neighbor's house. And she would feed us and try to help us getting dressed and everything. And after that, we had to go over to the oyster house to be checked for the appropriateness of our dress and everything. Because remember, if you went to school, they would send you back if you were not appropriately dressed, neat, clean, hair combed. All of that had to be in place. So as the people rocked in the shucking stall, Mama would look up and down, and we would have to turn around, and she would okay us to go. She never broke stride. When we came in and we got assembled, we did the preliminaries, the Pledge of Allegiance and all like that. And we always sang this song, "Good morning, sunshine. How are you, bright sunshine?" Those teachers were good. They were good. And they related to them as their children.
It was a pleasure. I think I learned more from them. I thought I was a reverse rule. I became this student because I learned so much and appreciated so much.
If you can imagine what the environment was, they're right on the edge of the river. They're in the middle of the salt marsh. So the area is prone even back then to flooding.
There were times when you had to go upstairs in your house and the water came in.
Water. That's all you would see, be water.
Massive flooding. Our house, we were trapped upstairs, and the water came within 3 steps of coming where we were.
Oh my God, the whole community was flooded. Whole community. In fact, the school, one day I was out with the kids and I looked down underneath and the school was sitting on water.
Cars and trucks and houses and pots and pans floating down, because it was a river.
And you see them riding up to the houses, you have to leave out. They have to take care of here or by boat.
They came in and they took us out in a rowboat. Howling and the flooding and the lightning. And it was just God that kept us. Houses were floating from everywhere. You remember that you talked about Shellpile. These houses had changed positions and they were floating.
We all shuck. Well, I started shucking when I was like 16, 17, and the oyster houses and stuff. But he taught us out back first.
Yeah, back
He
around
taught
house.
us how to do it first.
Being a kid of a shuck,
Yeah, they both started off shucking and then they taught us how to do it. All 6 of us, we shucked
Shucked
oysters.
oysters.
I remember at least 4 oyster houses right down on Shellpile. One called the Big House was the biggest one.
you got 50 people in there. Everybody's working on these oysters. And that's the first thing you hear before you get in there is clang, clang, clang.
Bang, dig, bang, dig, and the stuff would. Good thing I wore glasses.
Sometimes it seems like the person next to you meant to do it.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But they really did.
Because it was just splash.
But right up in the corner of your eye.
I kind of hated it, man. My feet be cold and
No.
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 He said that right. No.
It was cold because the doors have to be coming open. The truckers that bring the oysters in and take the shucked oysters out, in and out, in and out.
It was hard. Hard work. Got to pick them oysters up and open them up and throw them in the bucket and open up and throw them in the bucket.
My mom's knuckles, because she had arthritis from that kind of work. And many days she'd come home rubbing her knuckles.
Right now, my poor fingers, right now. I have to get up in the morning and run hot water over them.
In 1941, there was a labor union that came into existence through the AFL-CIO.
And they were a really powerful force. If they wanted to strike, it would shut down the whole industry.
Strike several times. And things were kind of rough doing that, during the strike.
Oysters wouldn't be getting shipped out. No one's making money. So the fact that they could unite and strike and have an organized labor really, I think, made a big difference.
And the oyster packing houses treated the laborers fair and also gave them better working conditions.
People still of this day that were oyster shuckers still get together and talk about when we did this, how many pots we shucked, who was the fastest, who was the slowest, we sang this song.
It was wet, it was cold, and folks found that song was a strengthener to get them through the day, and also kind of took the burden of laborious work.
We did a lot of Negro spirituals. That uplifted us because we know we had to make this day. We had to get through.
Mm-hmm.
We had to get
Somebody
through this
would
day.
just strike up a song, one of the songs, strike up one of the songs. And then everybody just fall right in and started singing. Yeah.
Oh my Lord, tell me what should I do? Oh my Lord, tell me what should I do? Tell me what should I do? Well, even that little saying can go a long way.
Yeah, that was the main part to keep us
You
going.
you get tired up there.
So
You
sing
sing,
spirituals.
and that would ease you.
Oh yeah, that'll
pick
warm
up
you
that
up,
pace
'cause,
a little
yeah,
bit more.
'cause then you get that rock.
Oh, won't it be wonderful,
Wonderful.
when I get over
When I get over
Glory Lane?
Glory Lane.
Won't it be wonderful,
wonderful.
when I get over
When I get over
Glory Lane?
Glory Lane.
Many of the singers in the packing houses and shucking houses, they were not trained. There were some that eventually did go on to form quartets that became quite well known. But for the most part, they came out of the United Methodist choirs and some of the Baptist choirs.
The Methodist men could sing,
Yes.
or
Junior
sang,
Johnson.
as they say.
Junior Johnson.
We sang, not just sing. We sang.
I wanna be ready.
I want to be ready.
I started with the Methodist men when I was 16. I was a high-pitched tenor. So I joined the men.
I'm trying to get the house in order so I can walk in Jerusalem, talk in Jerusalem, sing in Jerusalem, shout in Jerusalem, walk in Jerusalem, just like John.
The oyster industry always experienced ups and downs, good times and bad times. By the 1970s, Shellpile is 50 years old, and it's showing wear due to numerous floods. Conditions became unlivable, and there's an outcry throughout the area about those living conditions, and Shellpile is demolished. So no one lives here anymore. It's gone back to nature. But the industry still exists, and a workforce is still needed. And the labor force changed from African Americans working in the oyster houses to Latino workers who now do that work today. You still see the industry evolving here in Port Norris. There's still one oyster shucking house. In fact, it's the only one left in the state where they shuck oysters by hand. There's an oyster packing house, there are oyster farmers, there's a clam processing plant, in addition to numerous crabbers who still work the water.
It might look like it's the end, but it ain't over, as we used to say in sports, till it's over. God will allow us to look back into history and see how He kept folk. Even though it took a long time for the children to come out of Egypt, they came out. You all right?
It gets in my hands to make me laugh. And it all time. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Good enough for my feet to make me laugh. Give me that old